You know what? +2 for honesty there, Tall. So now you're actually back at ground zero. You're +1 actually for the week. Okay, let me move you guys around. Like I said, new system for me, so cut me a little slack because these PCs don't make sense to me. So welcome to Mega Session 3. What do you guys think of the sesh? Of these chapters? Pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So we get into the good stuff, a little red wine production, a lot of good grapes in here. Things start to steam up a little bit. So let's go get into it here. Y'all know the ground rules at this point. It is actually not Wednesday, it's Tuesday. Thanks for helping me out with my little jury duty situation, which I get to call tonight past 7 and find out if I actually have to go or not. So fingers crossed. Where are we in points? I think we got, like I said, Tall got a point for replying all. I don't think anyone replied all, right, last week. And that's okay. There's plenty of time. We've got 3 teams in big contention here, the Tannendactyls, Beaujolais, and Pinot Evil. Team Unello, you got to step it up a little bit. I'm just going to say it.
I feel like Anthony and I answer all the time. I don't understand.
You've got to answer correctly, though.
You know what, Connor? I hope you go to jury duty tomorrow.
I hope you're on a grand jury. Maybe I misplaced. Is that supposed to be a 3 instead of the 1? I don't know.
I just feel like Anthony and I talk all the time, and everyone else, but I just know Anthony, so I remember Tony Pepperoni.
Tony Pepperoni. Well, so turns out Kahoot is a big part of it, right? A lot of points on the board. I can't remember who's won what, but that's a good way to make sure you're getting points for the team. And really, there's 10 points on the board for that today, or in play. So you guys could catch up relatively quickly. Maybe. All right. So speaking of, let's get into it. Shall we? Gotta find the link here. See, in a Mac, we'd be halfway done with class, but because I'm having to do this PC, I have to
Why'd you switch?
Because United made me. It's some sort of liability thing.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if it's our tech group, but whoever we get our insurance from thinks that Macs are not safe, or are
I've always heard the opposite. That's supposed like Macs were, but it's not that they're any safer, but what I've always heard is that they're harder to write viruses for. That, and the vast majority of the world are PC. Thus, the viruses that are written for that OS.
I know that was at least the conventional wisdom. It's perhaps what I was told is changing.
Yeah.
Now they might have just been telling me that because I was very resistant. I'm very resistant to change. You guys know that about me. I don't like change, and so I was kind of being a baby about it. But they keep on telling me, and they're right. Probably they were telling me get on board because
a baby too. I'm so used to my Mac. It would be awful.
This is the first class I've taught with this, and I'm very uncomfortable right now, if you can't tell.
I mean, I haven't consistently used a PC in well over 10 years.
Yeah.
What is the difference of a PC versus the iPad and iPhone that we use versus the Mac? The same operating system, is it not?
Oh.
I mean, the user interface is entirely different, though.
No. I mean, but they don't want Connor to use a Mac, but we use iPhone and iPad. That's what I was questioning.
That was my first question as well. That was my number one, because their whole thing is about Outlook, and I go, well, I don't have Outlook on my Mac. I use the web app, but it doesn't matter. I don't know. That was my first. I'm like, everything else, our company's half run by Apple,
Right.
So I don't know. Enough about that. I'm not trying to besmirch any policy of the company. I'm just not good
On recorded videos.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I mouth off too much, it's a lot of editing before this thing goes onto YouTube.
We can talk trash about our employer when we're not being recorded.
Exactly. Save it for the victory party when we all pass, right? Okay. Is everyone in?
Yep.
Whew. So,
1 second.
sat out in the sun today.
Always lose my hair.
Whew. All right, we good?
Almost.
I made it.
Cool. I distracted you guys with my very interesting, cool technology story. I
Like,
apologize.
you were supposed to be doing something?
Y'all got.
You on the golf course today, Connor? You got a little sun.
I was about to say I sat outside for a second and did not apply sunscreen. And this is after I went to Fetch for several hours on Sunday. Have you guys been to Fetch before?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best. It's a dog park with a bar and coffee bar, and it was great. But I did not use sunscreen, so I look like a tomato. All right, I'm gonna start this thing. Y'all ready?
Yep.
Remember, in the WSET, they call them black grapes, not red grapes for whatever reason, because they're British. Which of these Bordeaux wines is most likely Merlot dominant? Pauillac, Médoc, Margaux, or Saint-Emilion? Okay. Yeah, Saint-Emilion, Merlot
Right.
dominant. We'll get to that. Médoc would probably be led by Cab. You never know. Question 2, Bordeaux Superior is stricter than a normal Bordeaux AOC in all of these categories except for what? Yields, alcohol level, percentage of Cabernet, or aging? Okay, Cabernet does not matter. The other three are what they're stricter about: yields, lower yields, higher alcohol, a little more aging. Bringing the heat today, right? Tall in first, Melissa right behind, and Dylan in
Tall
third.
didn't even read.
What's that?
The tall didn't even read.
Which of these New World areas is not known for Bordeaux grapes? Stellenbosch, Clare Valley, Cox Bay, or Maipo? All right, who got that? Amy, was that you? Well, you know what? You get an extra point whenever you're the only one to get a correct. Lee, you get a point. Clare Valley. Does anyone know what the Clare Valley is known for?
Didn't we talk about it in last chapter?
Is it
believe-
Pinotage?
No, Clare Valley's in Australia. Any guesses?
Sauvignon Blanc or Syrah?
Nope. Start naming grapes.
Sauvignon.
Was it Pinot Gris?
Nope.
Chardonnay?
Nope.
Savvy B.
We're just gonna move on.
Muscadine.
It was Riesling. Scuppernong, really.
Muscadine.
It's actually world famous Riesling. Question 4, true or false? Cru Bourgeois is held in higher regard than Grand Cru Class A wines. Is that true or false? Right, that's false. Grand Cru, that's where it's at, right? Bourgeois still good. We'll talk about that later. All righty. Ooh, Matt is the highest climber. I like that. Up 4 spaces. Question 5. You'd expect to find Syrah Shiraz dominant wines in all of these areas except where? Côte Rôtie, Hermitage, Beaujolais, or Barossa Valley? Nice. Okay, that's the first one. I think we got a majority right for this quiz because this quiz is really hard. But Beaujolais, right? What are we growing in Beaujolais?
Gamay.
Gamay. Correct. Well done. Melissa is in first now. Well done. And John and Tall and Scott and Kevin. Question 6. Which of these beauties would fetch the most money at a wine shop? Fleury, Beaujolais, Beaujolais Village, or Beaujolais Nouveau? Okay, yes, it's actually Fleury, because what is Fleury? It's a Grand Cru, or a Cru, sorry, not Grand Cru, Cru Beaujolais. You got to know your crus. All right, now Kelly's in second place, followed by AJ. AJ. Grenache Garnacha grows famously in all of these places except where? Rioja, McLaren Vale, Menavois, or Margaret River? Okay, ooh, yeah, house divided at Margaret River. There's some grown there, but that's really like Cabernet. We'll talk about that. These are tough today, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting y'all with these. All right, now we got Kelly in first place, but right behind is Age. Can I call you Age? It's happening. Question 8. Which of these Spanish wines must be aged in oak and bottle the longest? Gran Reserva, Crianza, Reserva, or Joven? All right, most of us got, yeah, Gran Reserva. It's like Reserva plus 1, right? Just one more. All right. Ooh, look at that. Just
This is a miracle.
You are. Should we just end the quiz now?
Honestly, I think it's game over.
True or false? Carmenere, Malbec, and Pinotage are all natives of France, but thrive best in the New World. Is that true or false? Ooh, I got y'all with this one.
Taj.
Pinotage was created in a lab in South Africa. That's how I got you. But not everyone. 5 of you got it.
Told you we should have ended it on the last one.
That the answer is false just because we don't sell more of it. We don't have it around here.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. Am I wrong?
I mean, that doesn't make it the answer, right?
That is true, but like, you know.
I mean, it's a valid point. If we don't sell it, it doesn't exist. I'm going to operate on that.
Okay, never mind.
On that premise for the rest of this. I like it. Last question. Anything could happen. Banana is a rare flavor in a wine that's typical of what? Carmenere, Pinotage, Gamay, or Malbec?
Fuck.
Damn, where's the bleep button?
Yeah.
All right, Gamay. Only about a third of you took a stab at that one.
Yeah.
But 3 of you got it right. All right, third place, 3 points. We got Kelly. Well done. See, you're on the board. Well done. That's 7 points, Amy.
I'll take my 7 points.
There you go. And Melissa. Okay. Ladies kicking ass. Kevin and Scott with a little bit of kudos. Let me see if I can screenshot. Googled how to do this.
Control print screen.
I think I was also told I could do it like this. I don't know what happened to it. I'm gonna write this down just in case though. Melissa.
Windows has had the same method of taking a screenshot since 1876.
What'd you say?
That Windows when you need to take a screenshot on Windows, it's been the same way forever. Like they haven't updated. There should be a simple button.
Like print screen or whatever you're saying?
Well, that, and then you have to copy it onto Microsoft Paint, and then you have to save the picture, and it's just annoying.
Oh, wow. That's ridiculous. I did see one that's like Window S Shift, and that's what I just did. I just don't know where it's saved. Crazy.
Want us to take a picture and send it to you? Well, not anymore.
It's gone forever. And those points are now gone forever. All right. That was tough, right? But we made it through. Let's get.
Well, I forgot to mention those note cards on that Brainscape are very helpful.
Are they good?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Anyone else?
Get it down to $3.99.
I talked him down. I was on the phone all Saturday. That's why you guys got that Saturday email, because it was my whole morning was just chatting them up and working for you guys. That's what I do. No, I'm glad to hear that, because I didn't actually try any of them out. I was just like, okay, looks like they got a bunch. Let's do it.
Yeah, I did over the weekend.
Cool. Okay. Good deal.
I'm partial that the guy who notified you of that team should get a few points.
You know what? I'm feeling crazy and grateful. You get 2 points. Well done. And can we all give him some jazz hands? That was a great suggestion. Okay, some of you guys, I'm taking note of who did not give him jazz hands.
That was John Bound. I didn't see a jazz hand from John Bound. There you go.
There it is.
I did it.
You did it. Let's talk about Merlot. Give me jazz hands if you like Merlot.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. I almost said it like Michael Venezia. Does anyone remember him?
Yep.
Merlot is how we used to always say it. So Merlot loves moderate to warm climates. It can grow in really hot climates and be relatively successful. Take a look here. It's got medium acidity, medium tannin, a medium T zone. And you could say this for pretty much any grape, but the fruit characteristics will vary according to ripeness, right? It is often single varietal, but loves being blended. It loves being a blend buddy with other grapes. You can be either really simple or complex. Some of my favorite wines, or some of the most expensive wines in the world, are Merlot based, right? Like in Bordeaux on the right bank. We'll talk about that. But then also on the other hand, when you're flying and you get a bottle of French red, so it's the airplane bottle, a little cheapy, it's almost always Merlot, because Merlot is really hardy. It can grow in a lot of places. It's easy to grow, right? So a lot of cheap wine, and in California, in our Central Valley too, we can grow a lot of Merlot really easily, right? But when you grow it well, and you grow on the best sites, it's some of the most complex, delicious wine in the world. Oak it or unoak it, dealer's choice. Let's see. It loves its biggest blending buddy. Who's its favorite person to go to prom with? Merlot. Cabernet, right? It loves its buddy Cab. So let's talk about, here we are, Merlot, the least ripe. And it's got these things called pyrazines, which Cabernet also has. And that means when it's a less ripe vintage or a less ripe, a cooler area, it'll often taste a little bit like green pepper. It's got red fruits like strawberries. And then when it gets riper, it goes into plums, blueberries, and blackberries, right? So a lot of different fruit flavors going on. Now let's go over here to Cabernet, who also loves moderate and even warmer climates. It needs slightly warmer conditions than Merlot to thrive. So what's different here in this first column? Could someone tell me what
it's got the skin?
Say it again, Matt.
Skin? Is it thick skin?
They're both thick skin.
Mm.
Both, I don't know if they mentioned on the other, but they're both have pretty thick skin.
Higher tannins?
What was that, Kevin?
Is it higher tannins?
Yes, exactly. Point for Kevin. Where'd you go?
And it's higher acidity too, right?
Yes, Amy with a point. Yes, exactly. So, and remember, what did we say about Merlot? It's a medium T zone, right? Yeah, I guess it doesn't say thick, but it is a thick grape, but it does have medium acid, medium tannin. Cabernet has higher acid and higher tannin, and mainly black fruits, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're such good blend buddies. Like when you're a winemaker and you're trying to make decisions about your final cuvee, your final wine, right? You want things that complement each other, and you want to make a complex wine, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes if you're just making 100% Cabernet, which plenty of people do, but sometimes you might say, oh, that's just really tannic. And you might only see, it's mainly Cabernet alone. It's mainly black fruits. You also get this green pepper in less ripe areas or cooler areas or less ripe vintages. You get some mint, you get some black currant and black cherry. But maybe you want some red fruits in there too, because remember, at least according to the WSET, the best wines in the world have a lot going on. So if you combine the flavors of this cab with the Merlot, you're adding what? Red fruits, right?
Yep.
Red fruits, blue fruits. Really ripe Merlot also has some, blackberries and such. And the same thing is true the other way around, right? You might have some Merlot that's a little flabbier. That's what we say about wines with not enough acid. They might feel flabby in your mouth, right?
Right.
So you might, add Cabernet to it. Oh, actually, let's talk about that. So when I'm adding Merlot, if I'm blending it with high tannin varieties such as Cab, why are you putting Merlot into that big tannic Cab?
Soften it up.
To lower the tannin, right?
Lower tannin.
Low acidity.
Yeah, exactly. And make it in a way, if they're really high tannic, you're making it smoother, right?
Yeah.
And ready to drink. Now, if I have got a Cab, and why am I adding a Cab to a wine, to a blend? What would that do?
Give it more tannins.
Yeah, and acidity, right?
Yeah, to beef it up a little bit.
Beef it up. Yeah, it's a great way to say it. Where'd you go, Christina? There you are. And where are you? John, was that you?
Yep.
Yeah, you're beefing it up, right?
Yep.
So that's why these guys are peanut butter and jelly, right? They complement each other, the yin and yang. It's a beautiful thing, really. All right, where are we growing Cabernet and Merlot? Well, how about south of France? A lot of it grown down here. Our buddy Jerry B, the biggest thing that we're growing down there is Grenache and Syrah, right? You guys seen Gerard Bertrand's GSM blends, right? Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre. That's indigenous. They're famous for that. But they're also growing a lot of international varieties down here in the Languedoc, which would be Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Merlot and Cab, right? Those are the two places. That's where you need to know in France. But the most important place for Merlot and Cabernet in the world, arguably, because it put it on the map, is Bordeaux, right?
Yep.
It's where they all became famous and inspired all the New World regions to make Cabernet and Merlot, to grow those grapes, because they wanted to recreate what's going on here in Bordeaux. Okay. France is a little annoying, if we're being honest, because every region has their own way of classifying things, right? We talked a little about Burgundy last time, right?
Yep.
And the Grand Cru sites and villages and stuff. It's completely different there in Bordeaux, thankfully. They went back 150 years ago plus, and they raided the chateau over here in the Médoc. We'll get to that in a second, though. Let's talk about the region in general. So we've got, can anyone tell me what type of climate Bordeaux is? Continental, maritime, Mediterranean. Have we talked about those three? Riel is asleep right now, I think. Are you asleep?
Can I guess?
Sorry. What? Yeah. What? Guess, Paul. What'd you say?
I said I'm gonna guess Mediterranean.
Great guess, but it's actually maritime.
Because I have that with accurate.
You're right here on the ocean. What that basically means is you're getting some rainfall. Mediterranean is more like warm, dry summers, perfect for grapes. Maritime's a little more hectic. You get rain a little bit more. That's what's happening here. So moderate climate. And the other thing I wanted to say, and I've told you all about my tubing trips that I want to do, right?
Yep.
I want to tube. This is the big one I want to do. I want to tube down the Garonne here, and I want to go all the way out to the Atlantic. And if I'm doing that, I've got a 6-pack of beer. No, I've got a case of beer. Who am I kidding? I got a case of beer, but I kind of want some wine here. And I'm traveling, I'm flowing. And over here, I see my buddy in Saint-Emilion on the right bank, right? He's growing grapes. Can anyone tell me, raise your hand, what grapes is he probably growing? What's the main grape? John?
Merlot?
Nailed it. Yes. Where'd you go, John? There you are. John on fire. Yeah. So As I'm tubing and I'm taking a pit stop because I want to chug some Merlot, I'm gonna go get some. So right bank, think the two villages they want you to remember are Saint-Emilion and Pomerol, are usually Merlot dominant. So it might be 70% Merlot, and then usually it's Cab Franc, maybe Cabernet Sauvignon, but usually Merlot is the star, right? Then we're gonna get back in our tubes as a class, and we're gonna tube down this windy river here, and we're gonna go here.
Can we please do this one day? Can we all get inner tubes and do this?
Oh yeah.
Can this be an incentive trip?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm about to
100%.
say, is United paying to send us to France?
Oh
I'm
yeah.
down.
It's an
I'm in.
educational trip.
Just go ahead and purchase tickets, and we'll figure it all out later.
You can just float back to the US.
Oh yeah. It'd probably go like the same Titanic route. It might be a little chilly, but I think that's the best way to cross. So we'll just have to be dodging icebergs. But I mean, if we got enough beer, we're good. So, and a little side note, my wife and I are actually going to Rioja for a few days in a month, and we're going to tube the Ebro because I'm always joking about tubing, the rivers. We're going to do it. It literally would be the most fun thing on the planet. So, all right. We've tubed past my buddy Dale here in Saint-Emilion. He hooked us up with some Merlot. That was cool. Then we were thirsty again around Pomerol, got some more. Then we flow into the Gironde estuary. And what's on our left side here? What are my buddy?
Left bank Cabernet.
Cabernet, right. John on fire. Yeah. If you were to pick a random grape out of these vineyards, there's a good chance it's going to be Cabernet, right? This is the left bank of Bordeaux. Whenever you hear that, these tend to be Cabernet dominant, right? And usually the second grape would be Merlot, right? Now, why does anyone for 2 points want to tell me why are we Cabernet over here and Merlot over here? Does anyone know?
Exposure to the sun.
Part of it. There's more to it than that.
The type of soil that they grow in is drier and warmer.
Yes. So you're on the right track with soil.
Is it like
moisture content?
gravel that's in the soil?
Yes. Okay, there we go. We're getting there now. So Christina, Jeff, where did you go? The soil is the biggest difference, right? And a little bit of just like the microclimate, right? It's warmer over here, a little bit warmer on the left bank. And does anyone remember what type of soil they have up here?
Connor,
Yes.
isn't it rocks?
Yeah, it's gravel, right?
It's gravel, so the gravel holds the heat during the day to provide heat for the
Root system.
vines at night.
Yeah. That's great. Yes. It's there's two.
And also it is good for moisture as well because it drains the moisture well.
I was about to say that. You took the words out of my mouth. Well done. Yeah, it's good for drainage, and it can reflect some light back onto those grapes. And so when we're thinking about this, so Cabernet, like we said, it likes moderate or warm. This is about as cool as you can get for Cabernet, as far as this is about usually likes warmer temperatures, right? So this is about as far north as Cabernet ripens, and they're doing it with a little help from the soil. The climate's a little bit warmer over here than over here. Now, Merlot, which can grow, it's a lot easier to grow, but it also really likes the soil type over here. Does anyone happen to, I don't even know if the book tells you. It's usually clay based. So clay soils, Merlot loves clay. And I probably spent too much time on this, I apologize, but Bordeaux is just a confusing area, so it's good to spend a little time, I think. Any questions on this? So the book wants me to ask you, why can these wines age for a long time? Could be true of any wine that has these characteristics.
Higher acidity.
High tannins.
Yes. Kelly, was that you at first? I think it was Kelly. Yeah.
Higher acidity, yeah.
Yep, and then someone said tannin too.
That was me.
Oh, nice, Scott. All right, where'd you go? Cool. Okay, yeah, that's what helps these age long in the bottle. Now, another question we could ask is, why do people blend a lot in, well, we kind of talked about how Merlot and Cabernet are good blend buddies. But another thing, I'm not going to ask this, I'm just going to tell you. There's a lot of blending going on in Bordeaux too, because we harvest at different times, right? Cabernet comes in later than Merlot. And there are a lot of different regions. So what happens is it might rain right before the harvest over here in Merlot. And what you can do is then, well, we already, let's say we are, let me flip flop that. Let's say it rains right before the harvest in Cabernet. That's gonna be waterlogged. Cabernet is not gonna be as good. Well, let's make the blend a little heavier with Merlot, right? Blending from different areas gives you different options. Make sense?
Yeah.
Certain years are better for certain grapes. Okay. And by the way, has anyone seen Sideways?
Yep.
The whole tagline the whole way is, I will not drink Merlot,
Well,
right? But then does anyone know what he was drinking in that last scene?
Merlot in a cup, right?
Yeah,
Solo cup.
he's at the Burger King and he opens a bottle of Cheval Blanc from the right bank and he's drinking Merlot out of, not the spoilers alerts, but yeah, so it's Merlot. It's kind of cool. Any questions there? All right. So if we are just looking at basic labels here, if you see this fictional label in the market, then that's weird. But if you saw something that says Appellation Bordeaux Control A, it just says Bordeaux and it's the brand. Can anyone tell me what grape might it be more than likely?
Merlot or Cab.
Cabernet.
Yeah, I'm looking for just one answer, but it's Merlot, right? So that's the root of that question is Merlot is the most planted in Bordeaux because it's easier to grow, right? So if you just see one that says Bordeaux Red, AOC, Appellation Bordeaux Control A, this could be Merlot. And I kind of asked you guys this on the Kahoot, but if you see this word superior, does anyone raise their hand and tell me what that means? Anyone? All right, I'll just tell you what it means.
Subject to stricter controls. So like yields, aging, alcohol.
Nailed it, Scott.
Hey, Connor,
Yeah.
can we go back to the Bordeaux label? Are you saying that's going to be strictly Merlot and no Cab in there whatsoever?
No. I'm sorry. That's not what I mean at all. It could be any of the 5 Bordeaux grapes, right? But
Okay.
more than likely, there. And I only bring this up because the book says it, so it's probably true. But just know that the book could ask you that question. If you see this label, what's it more than likely going to be? You would say probably Merlot based, but it could be anything.
Okay.
Scott nailed it with superior, right? That just means that's just a different set of standards. So he's got to be little fewer yields, right? The alcohol, I think, on normal Bordeaux is 12, and it's a point higher. So it has to be 13 or 13.5%. I can't remember now. But there's just a little tighter regulations. All right, if you see this Pauillac here, who can tell me and you see Grand Vin, who can tell me what the grape probably is leading with? What grape is leading the show here?
Simeon?
It's a Cab.
Cabernet.
Yeah. Who was that? Was that Kelly again? I believe it was Kelly. She's getting the point either way. Yeah, Cab. So there are, that's one of the, let me go back here. These are some of the most famous wine villages in the world. I should have mentioned that. Pauillac, Médoc is the kind of the higher area of the Médoc. Margaux, the ones you need to know, Margaux and Pauillac. There's a bunch of really important villages, but for our purposes, know that Medoc, if you see that word, it means left bank. It's usually going to be Cabernet. And if you see Pauillac or Margaux, think really expensive Cabernet.
Would it be safe to assume that as far as Bordeaux is concerned, anything ending with a C or an X is left bank?
Ooh. Yeah. And for our purposes, yes. Or you could just memorize these two, Pomerol and Saint-Emilion.
Yeah, fair.
And then Grave down here, we'll talk about that more. Or did we talk about this a little bit with the Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc? This is the same area we talked about last week. They grow some Merlot and some other things down here too, but famous Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, and dessert wine area. Sauterne is from here. All right. Any other questions? Until we move to. So what can we assume about this last wine? What is it? What grape? Yeah. Who was that?
Christina.
Christina. Nice. Yeah. Probably gonna be Merlot based, right? Kind of like the Chateau Lessegue, right? That's Saint-Emilion. You guys have the Chateau Lessegue from Jackson family. That is Merlot. I don't remember the actual breakdown, but it is Merlot dominant. Okay. So a lot of annoying label alerts here and classifications in Bordeaux, right? So many. So Chateau, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean some big house. It just means basically it's grown
On that property.
on that property. Yeah, exactly. On that producer's land, right?
Yep.
Now we've got Grand Cru Class A. So what they want me to tell you, because all you need to know, that some of the subregions within Bordeaux drew up their own rankings of all of the different chateaux, right? I think they classified them. The big famous one that I don't even think they talk about in the book, so you don't necessarily have to memorize it, but it was the classification of 1855, where they had 5 different levels of quality. The first one being only 4 producers at the time, 4 chateaux at the time, and we added a 5th. But according to this, it's a strong indication of quality. You see Grand Cru Class A, that's the good stuff. If you see this word, Cru Bourgeois, does anyone know what this means? Raise your hand. All right, so basically, there are a lot of chateaus that didn't make it into the classification of the 5 levels, right? Back in the 1850s, they either weren't around yet or they didn't make the cut. So now these producers can apply to be Cru Bourgeois every year. They have to. They don't. It's not like you get it one and you're done like these guys did. But they can send a bottle to whatever Bordeaux wine authority. I don't know what it was called, but you send a bottle every vintage, and they will, and you apply for Cru Bourgeois status, right? If you get it, that's a good indication.
So they have to reclassify every year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but for our purposes, what that means is if you see something in a store or on a wine list that says Cru Bourgeois, you know it's like a step up, right? It could almost be as good as some of these others, but it doesn't have the Grand Cru hierarchy. It wasn't originally classified. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You can get these for, sometimes 15 to 30 bucks. It's a good deal. And they're usually pretty good.
Connor, will they ever step it up to become a Grand Cru?
I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
Well, so they did change it. They allowed one person to become from second growth to first growth in 1973. And it's because he bitched and moaned so much that they're like, all right, fine. you are now first growth. But I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how often things change. I mean, the French, this is pretty heavily steeped in tradition. They're not changing things often. But let's ask Google, how often do Bordeaux classifications change?
Probably never.
I mean, it did happen. So I just don't know with after second, third, fourth, fifth growth. I'm not sure how often that happens. It's a good question.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions about Bordeaux? Bordeaux, Cab, Merlot. Burgundy, red wines. What are we drinking in Burgundy? I heard Austin on mute say Pinot Noir.
Yep, Pinot Noir. There you
Read
go.
your lips. You get a point for that. If I can find you. There'd you go. There you are. Okay, cool. All right, so like I was saying, everyone loves Merlot or tried to emulate what was popular at the time when we first started growing grapes and other places outside of the old world. So they planted Merlot and Cabernet everywhere. Merlot and Cab like warm weather, and they're pretty hardy. So they grow really well in the New World too, like in California, Alaska, not so much. Chile, South Africa, Australia, some little parts of New Zealand. Let's talk about the most famous place for Merlot and Cab in California would be, of course, Napa and Sonoma, right? We grow a ton of it down here in the Central Valley too, but this is really hot. You can get a little flabby here. This is where our, a lot of our 4-pack wine, Cab and Merlot comes from.
Creme de la creme.
Creme de la creme, yeah. Hang out in the Central Valley for that. All right, these wines, Napa and Sonoma can go head to head with all the best, some of the best Bordeaux in the world, right? They can stand up to pretty much any other Merlot or Cab in the world. But let's talk about Napa and Sonoma specifically.
So are there people, I guess, like sommeliers or other much more talented, smarter individuals than you or I who could drink like the best California Merlot versus like a French Merlot and tell you whether or not it's from California or France?
I can do that, Tal.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm kidding. But you can be taught to, I mean, it's not definitely, but I will say there's a cool movie called Bottle Shock. Has anyone seen it? It's about, write that one down. As far as wine movies go, it's pretty good. It had a pretty good budget. It had not Martin Sheen. I can't remember the actors now. But anyway, it's about the Judgment of Paris. And this is back in the 70s in Napa, when Napa was an emerging wine region, but no one knew how good the wines were. Well, this English merchant comes over and goes, damn, these are really good. And so he decided to put on a competition against the top Bordeaux chateau, right? So they call it the Judgment of Paris. They had 6 French wine judges, and they blinded them, right, on 6 reds and 6 whites. And or might have been 12 reds total, but 6, I can't remember, it's 3 Napa Cabs versus 3, I'm talking Chateau Margaux, all the big names, right? Pauillac versus the Napa wines, which was Stag's Leap. If you guys know that one, that was one of the wines. What were the other ones? Freemark Abbey, I believe.
Wasn't Chateau Montelena in there?
Chateau Montelena was the Chardonnay. I think Freemark had a Chard. Anyway, all these, the Napas, and I don't really want to spoil it, but I want you guys to watch it.
It was Alan Rickman, by the way.
Alan Rickman is the British guy that goes to Napa. I was trying to, the dad is someone famous too in the thing.
Bill Pullman.
Yes.
Bill Pullman, yes, that's it. It's a good movie. You guys check it out. I won't spoil the ending.
And Connor, you said it's called Bottle Shop?
Bottle
Shock.
Shock. It's named after, or at least the thought was, well, sometimes when you take a bottle on a plane, underneath, the pressure can mess with it, and you got to let it sit for a few weeks before you can drink it.
While we're on movies, there's a documentary on Netflix called Sour Grapes about counterfeiting wine labels.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a very interesting program.
Yes, it is.
I have to check that out. I know of it. I haven't seen it yet. Whoops. Okay, so question for the gang. In Napa here, is it warmer north, middle, or south of Napa?
South.
Down north.
It's actually incorrect.
North.
It's north, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
because the breeze comes off the San Pablo Bay and cools it.
John on fire. I've said it 3 times now. Drink every time I say John's on fire. So yeah, the San Pablo Bay, so if you ever go to Napa, you'll usually fly into San Francisco, or if you go this way, you'll cross the Golden Gate Bridge and you go up. It's really cold over here. Remember, this water is like
Ice cold.
ice cold. You can't swim in this, it's wetsuit weather, right? So anyway, you drive up here into Sonoma, Napa. This also almost just as cold. What happens is this fog will come in and it'll creep up and come in at night, and it makes it about right up to here, and then it starts to burn off. So it burns off here first and then recedes back into the San Pablo Bay. Same thing over here in Sonoma, goes boop, 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 right? So this is actually the coldest area down here. This little region is called Carneros, and it goes in both Sonoma and Napa. So colder climate stuff. So what are you growing down here? Does anyone want to guess?
Pinot Noir.
Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, cooler climate grapes. Whereas our Merlot and Cab buddies, they like it warmer. They're further up north. Has anyone had Madrigal Cab?
No.
Or the Trinchero stuff, Trinchero Napa Cab?
Yeah.
Those are all 14 and a half. Madrigal's like 15 and a half. And those are all up here in Calistoga. You get, the ABV shrinks once you get a little bit cooler, right? Same thing over here in Sonoma. Further up you get, it's Cabernet country up here, and a lot of Pinot and Chard and stuff down here. Ocean breezes make a big difference too. You know what? I was saying all that, and then I have a more in depth or a close-up slide. Curses. Well, there you go. There's Calistoga right there. Really warm area here. They're not getting as much fog. You got Rutherford, Oakville. What's Oakville famous for? Who came out of Oakville?
Franciscan Cab.
Yeah, but one that we sell that has made us all rich beyond compare.
Robert Mondavi Napa.
Bobby Mondavi, correct. Robert Mondavi is Oakville. He was a big leader in the valley.
He had Stag's Leap Oakville for a little bit.
What's that?
Stag's Leap Oakville.
Stag's Leap is its own little area over here.
I know, but
But they have. Oh yeah. So they're sourcing. They've got a Oakville label.
Yeah.
Well, RIP to that. Apparently it's been discontinued by the wine.
Yeah, she was really
Yeah.
good when she was here, but she gone.
She gone. Well, it's weird to have you're the name of the AVA on your label, and then you have you're from a different AVA. That's it's weird. I could have told them that. Okay. Rutherford, you'll hear about the Rutherford dust. Has anyone heard about that? It's just this soil type that kind of gives this dustiness in the wine, they say. Okay. Any questions about this? Before we go to Chile. Oops. All right, Chile, for our purposes, what we need to know here, Maipo is kind of like the Napa of Chile. Santiago's right there. So it's close enough to a huge city, and there's wine country up and down Chile, but Maipo is probably the most famous, and they grow a lot of Cabernet and Merlot here. Colchagua Valley too, in the Central Valley, a lot of Cabernet, especially kind of in between the Andes and the coast here. Cabernet is king in Chile, according to these notes over here. It's the most widely planted variety. You also get a lot of like herbaceousness. Who's drunk a lot of Chilean Cab or Carmenere, or had any? You kind of get, to me, it's like a tomato stalky kind of thing, like green vegetal almost. Then you get the fruit, which I know I'm making it sound real appetizing. But next time you have get a Chilean Cab and see if you notice it. Maipo, that's all I need to know. All right, let's talk about South Africa and where we're growing Merlot and Cab. Stellenbosch is the name of the game, right? It's a mountainous region. That's all you need to know. Just think Merlot, Cab, Stellenbosch. How are you going to remember that? I'm literally asking, I don't know. But just know that's a warmer kind of climate area. And they sometimes blend with Pinotage. Crazy, I know. Any questions on that? We gave South Africa 20 seconds of our time. I apologize. We'll talk about them more when it's Chenin Blanc, or I'm sure we'll talk about them for other things. But right now, let's talk about Australia, the place to know for Merlot and Cabernet. So almost all the action happens, wine action happens over here in Southeast Australia. But this little bit of sliver over here in the Margaret River, that's growing almost exclusively Cab and Merlot for the reds. A couple others, but really Cab and Merlot are the big ones. And then they grow some Chardonnay. We've got a producer called Lewin Estate. Has anyone heard of them? Leuwin. It's the best Cabernet from Australia. And they make a good Chardonnay too. Okay. And so, oh, whoop, I misspoke. There's also good Cabernet coming out of Coonawarra, which is, so like, here's Adelaide's down here. Coonawarra. And it's also known for its unique soil called Terra Rosa. You don't have to know that, I don't think. Penley Estate, has anyone had the Penley Estate wines? They've got a Coonawarra Cab. That's all you need to know for Merlot and Cab in Australia. Let's move on to New Zealand, where the name of the game is Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir. Really, for the most part, it's like 80–90% of what they grow. But there's this little area, Hawke's Bay. Remember, when you're in the southern hemisphere, the further north you get, the warmer it is, right? So Hawke's Bay is warm enough to do Cab and Merlot. And they have this soil called gimblette gravel. Remember what other area has gravelly soil?
Oh, so
Bordeaux.
Bordeaux.
Left bank
Germany.
Bordeaux. Germany too, yeah. But they, I'm talking about it here because it's kind of like that same gravelly soil that left bank Bordeaux has. Okie dokie. That's it for Merlot and Cab. What's our time check? Okay, let's get through, not get through. Let's talk about Syrah and Shiraz. And then I think we start a new chapter. So then we'll take a little pee break. Okay, Syrah Shiraz, another thick-skinned grape. It's got medium to high tannin, medium to high acidity, a lot of black fruit and spice. This is pretty much every slide for every grape. It can be single varietal or blended, medium to full bodied, and they oak it often. You can age Syrah or Shiraz a long time. and you get these tertiary notes. Remember, primary versus secondary versus tertiary. You get these tertiary notes when you get dried fruit. Leather is a big one. Meat, earth. This is big when you see, if you have a Syrah from the Northern Rhone in France, they get really peppery, peppercorn. And then look at all this. Everything is black on this, right? Blackberries, black cherries, licorice, which I had to be told that this was licorice. Who has purchased licorice in this form? Is that a British thing or something?
I've never seen it like that.
It's not appealing to me to be all coiled up like that. I'm sorry. This does not look.
Imagine like a Twizzlers that you can just unroll.
Yeah, but Twizzlers are way better than regular licorice.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
licorice
also
tastes like crude oil.
Yep. Well, yes, and they're also not, I don't know, packaged like a dog poop. You know, I'm just gonna say it. All right, enough about that. So where are we growing Syrah? Well, the ancestral home and the most famous place in the world for it, arguably, is in the Northern Rhone. All right. So up here you got Burgundy, right? And then you got Beaujolais, and then you got Northern Rhone. So it's classic there. It's basically the furthest north that Syrah could grow. But then down here with our buddy, remember Jerry B, it's probably his favorite grape, Syrah. He puts it in everything, right? You got a lot of GSM blends, Grenache Syrah Mourvedre, Syrah Mourvedre blends, Grenache Syrah. It's all over the place. If you guys have had a Côte d'Rhône wine, that's usually like the Beeler. You guys know the Beeler Côte d'Rhône? It's almost half and half, right? Half Grenache, half Syrah. So that's where we're growing it here. Here is a little, all right, so here we are at Northern Rhone. See it right there. Then we're kind of blowing that up. So we've got Côte Rôtie, very famous village, right, for Syrah. And then you have Hermitage and Frozen Hermitage, but very famous Syrah region. Let's see here. So this is kind of a cooler area. What are some things, anyone want to raise their hand and tell me, what are some things happening in this picture that help Syrah ripen more? Kelly?
Hillside.
Dylan, I'll give you one for that. Yeah, the hillside, right? And that's hillside also could be southerly aspect, right? We talked about. I think, well, Melissa, what you got?
Does the body of water in front of it play?
Yes, well done.
The reflection.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, points all around. Yes, so the river does a lot, right? A reflection of light off of the river can, reflect back on it. It also just moderates things a little bit more as well. So river is another great one. And then let's see, that's pretty much it. Stony soils too, they can reflect. See how that is kind of reflecting from those rocks. All right. But the best, most famous would be Côte Rôtie, and then Hermitage makes some good stuff too. Dylan, I appreciate you apologizing to the group for not raising your hand. What a classy guy. I love it. You'll still get a point though. All right. Any questions on Syrah from France? So Syrah, AKA Shiraz in Australia, is grown all over the place. This is where more Shiraz is grown than, or Syrah is grown than anywhere else, right? It does really well with warmth, and Australia is one hot continent, right? So it's a good fit for it. Barossa Valley is probably the most famous place for Shiraz in the world. Some of those big boy blockbuster Shirazes, really expensive, like Grange. If you guys ever heard of Grange, all those wines coming out of Barossa. We've got a really good one called John Duval. And then also out of Hunter Valley. Did I miss anything for Barossa? No, you just need to know about it. Hunter Valley also grows some really good Shiraz. Does anyone remember the white grape we talked about last time with Hunter Valley?
To Chardonnay.
They do grow Chardonnay there, but Simeon is the one.
Sauvignon Blanc. Oh.
Simeon, yeah, which is really random. We've got a wine called Broken Wood. It's really good. Okay, that's break time. Let's take a quick break, like a 5-minute break. And I'll see you at, what time is that? 5:08.
Eddie! Oh no, I think I might have just fucked up.
Okay, dokie. Give everyone about 30 seconds. Amy, how's studying coming along?
It's really great.
Hey, you're on the board in Kahoot.
You know, honestly, I'm gonna make 100.
I don't doubt it. I believe in you.
Thanks.
I need some of your evidence.
If we all,
Confidence, that's all it is, Tony Pepperoni.
if all of us get 100, I'll pay for us to tube the Giron. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Dang.
Whoa.
That is a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you all have to hit 100.
Evan did
I'm not
tell me
that
I had to pass with distinction.
You guys could do it, man. That would really suck if y'all did. It'd be the most fun trip ever, but I'd be paying for it for years, I feel like. All right, let's get this thing going again with session 6, which I spent a lot of time on Bordeaux because I think it's important. Hopefully it wasn't too boring or didn't bore you too bad. It's good to know because it's complicated as well. This stuff is a lot more straightforward. It's just grape in a region pretty much. So let's talk about it. Let's get into one of my favorite grapes on the planet, Gamay. Gamay likes moderate climates. And really it's starting to change, but there's really only one place that's super famous or it's traditionally grown. Can anyone tell me what region are we talking about with Gamay?
Beaujolais.
Beaujolais, yeah, exactly. Now we're starting to grow some in Oregon and California and some other places. It also grows in the Loire Valley. But for our purposes and the purposes of this test, just think Gamay, Beaujolais, it rhymes. I should have invited you guys. I had a Cheddar Bay Beaujolais Low Country boil the other day. It was fantastic. So Cheddar Bay biscuits from Red Lobster, and then everyone brought a Beaujolais. It's our favorite thing to do. So high acidity. We're in a low T zone here, low tannin. A lot of red fruits, raspberry, red cherry, red plums, red. You also get these banana flavors and aromas. If you see the word banana on this exam, they're talking about Gamay. That's a byproduct of something called carbonic maceration. And just know the technique that they use to make Beaujolais often will produce these bubblegum and banana flavors, they call them. Okay, usually light-bodied. Beaujolais, it's some of the best and least expensive wine. It's the best bang for the buck in the business.
So out of curiosity, does the Beaujolais, does it pair well with the Low Country boil, or is it just a fun little rhyme to say?
No, it pairs well with everything in a way because it has high acidity and it's got.
Okay, yeah.
It really does really well with because there's also like seafood and if you're gonna pair a red wine with a seafood, you better go kind of thinner and high acid, right? So
Yeah.
it does well with the sausage and the shrimp and whatever. I don't do crawfish, but because I don't know how to do it, but everything else.
You got it stuck to the head.
I know.
Bite off the head.
I can't do it. I've never been able to do it, but it works really well with almost any food, kind of like Pinot Noir does, Okay. Let's move on here. Oh, typically for early drinking, that's right. Have you ever heard of Beaujolais Nouveau? Anybody?
Yep. Comes out once a year.
Yep, that's the one that comes out.
First harvest.
Yep. So Nouveau is the style that comes out. I think it's the 3rd Friday of November. It comes out the week before Thanksgiving usually, so maybe the 2nd Friday. And it's they harvest and ferment wine and basically bottle it right there and then send it all over. That's Nouveau. It's a different style. It's fruity. You get a lot of these banana type of flavors. You might have had it at Thanksgiving, right?
Every Thanksgiving.
Yeah. It's kind of a tradition. Here's Beaujolais right there. Let me see it. It says in between Burgundy and Northern Rhone down here. let's talk about it. The one village that WSET 2 wants you to know is Fleury. That's it. Here's a whole map. This red outline is all of Beaujolais. All the good stuff happens in the north. There's granite soils. It's better draining. It's where all the there are 10 crews, Fleury being one of them. If you guys know Maison Lamboyer, you know that producer we have, the straight shooter that's on the United 11, right? Well, they've got 2 crews, 2 wines that are cru Beaujolais, one from Morgon, which is not pictured, and then one from Moulin au Vent. You don't need to know it, but we do have some cru Beaujolais, and we have Moyard has a Beaujolais as well. So if you just see something that says AOC, Appellation Beaujolais Contrôlé, it could be from anywhere here, right? If you see Beaujolais Village, that means it's tied itself to one of these villages. That means it's a little step up in quality. And then if you see Fleury or one of the 10 cru Beaujolais, then you know it's really good quality.
Hey, Connor,
Yes,
can we go back to the villages?
sure.
How many villages are in that?
That's a good question. I was hoping no one would ask because I can't remember off the top of my head. Someone could look that up for me. How
Like
many?
15?
Probably more, but would someone look up how many villages in Beaujolais, how many Beaujolais Village are there? But it's kind of like what we talked about with, like, remember last time we talked about Bourgogne, yeah, right, being the big Pinot, like the big broad one, and then there was Bourgogne Village. You tied to a village.
38 villages.
Thank you. Who is that? Austin?
Yep.
All right, point for you. Where'd you go? There you are. Yeah. So you got Beaujolais, could be anywhere. And then we got 38 villages you can tie to, could be a little more geographically specific. And then if you're from one of these 10 basically esteemed villages or crews, then you would call it that. Fleury's, I guess, according to them, is the most famous. Morgon, Moulin au Vent, there's a lot of good on Brewy. And the cru stuff, if you're in a wine shop and want to spend $30, it's some of the best wine you've ever had. And it's so cheap right now compared to buying, Grand Cru, Premier Cru, Pinot Noir, Burgundy. Get cru Beaujolais. Okay. And the higher up you go, the more concentrated the wines become. These guys are pretty, if you've had Nouveau at the Thanksgiving table, it's a really light and kind of simple and delicious. I still love it. But it gets more complex. Questions on Gamay?
I don't know if this may be really silly, so shoot me down. But with the Fleury, is that how you say it?
Fleury.
Fleury, excuse me. That reminds me of Fleur from Harry Potter. So if there's any kind of twist to like bring that back in, I don't know. Just
Fleury de la Curie, right? Like Fleur de la Cour, I mean?
Sure. I don't know. That's just reading Harry Potter. She's married to Bill. So like if anyone has any relevance or is nerdy like that, just
She was from
They're both
France.
French
She
words.
was from,
yeah.
well, she was also from a French magical school. So,
Mhm.
Would she be complex and kind of a bold character?
Yeah. She got chosen for the Tri-Wizard tournament. She's
Exactly.
like, yeah.
She's bold, complex, a little fruity, if we're going to be honest about the whole thing.
Mhm.
And
she's like a Pinot Noir because she kind of goes with everything. She's not too judgmental. She can go with good things, some.
I was about to talk about the price per quality aspect. That's probably not going to get into.
No.
That's a line that we probably shouldn't cross.
Yeah, she's a great value. And congratulations, y'all saw the last class I ever taught at United Distributors. But that's a good way to now we won't forget Fleur, right? Complex. Yeah, complex.
There you go.
Let's stop. We'll end it there. Great point, though. That's at least a point, Melissa.
Oh, wow.
I know. All right, let's talk about Grenache aka garnacha, really likes the warm climates. Doesn't do well up north or in moderate and cool. What do you guys notice about the fruits here?
Light red.
Red, right? A lot of red fruits. It's a thin skin grape. It's a low T zone. Low T, low acidity. Strawberries, plums, cherries, oh my. So what is it? So I like to point this out. Going back to, if we can go all the way back to Syrah, we blend a lot, right? Look at this fruit profile here. So a lot of what? Black fruits. Versus
red fruit.
Red fruits. So if you're a winemaker trying to make really complex or more interesting wines, you might blend those two, right? There's plenty of places that just do Grenache, but if you want to make a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you might.
Yellowtail used to have a Shiraz Grenache. It was a pink label, if I'm not mistaken.
Who did?
Yellowtail.
Oh yeah, yeah. And any Côte de Rhône you've ever had is pretty much Grenache Syrah. And if we're also talking about Gerard Bertrand, right? How many wines don't have Grenache in it? Most of it's Grenache, Syrah, and something else, or just the two. And then of course he does like just a Cabernet and a Chardonnay or whatever. But most of the ones that are from, and the most famous place in the Languedoc for that is called Minervois. If you guys have seen Gerard Bertrand Minervois, he's got a own bottling of that, and it's real good. Okay, Corbière is another one down there, if you guys seen that. And then Grenache makes really good rosé too, because it's got thin skin, we were saying, and a lot of red fruits. It's real good. It's making me thirsty. All right. But we also make really, really serious wines where Grenache is the star. Have you ever heard of Chateauneuf de Pape?
Yep.
That is arguably the best expression of Grenache, and it's usually blended with other things, but most of the time Grenache is the star. It's 50% Grenache, and then there's something like 13 grapes you could use in Chateauneuf de Pape.
It's 18 now.
It's how many?
18.
Oh wow, okay. But usually Grenache is the star of it, right? If you see something that says Côte de Rhône, it usually means, oh, there it is. Any of this red, Côte de Rhône, that means it can come from any of these areas. And usually will be Grenache based or sometimes Syrah. Does anyone know, for 3 points, what these stones are? I don't know if this is in the book. They don't tell you.
River rock.
It's true. It is. I'll give you one for that. They're called galets, and they're reflective. Once again, most rocks, if they're famous, it's because they reflect light. It's windy as heck down here too. So really warm, but windy enough to get these grapes going. Any questions here? Perfect. So Rhône is kind of like Beaujolais. I put them in the same bucket. In Rhône, you got, in Southern Rhône, I'm talking about, you got Côte de Rhône, right? Just the regular, that means it comes from any of these, that little, I'm pointing like you guys can see, any of these, this little red area here, this is a big vines everywhere. So you got Côte de Rhône, you got Côte de Rhône Village, which is tied to a village, right? A little, just a step up in quality. And then you've got the AOCs like Chateauneuf de Pape. Easy enough, right? Simple, more complex, really complex. Questions there? Another place that Grenache, aka Garnacha, is important is in Rioja. And who's the jelly to its peanut butter here in Rioja? Who's Garnache like to hang out with?
Tempranillo.
Christina is correct. Tempranillo Garnacha blends. Rioja is most famous for Tempranillo, but it's second most grown. I don't know if it's the most grown, but the second most famous for Garnacha. They're usually blended together. So remember, Garnacha blends well with things because it's got lots of red fruits, right? A lot of interesting, good red flavors. Navarra is a really famous place right over here next to it. It's really famous for rosé too. So a lot of Garnacha rosé. And then the Priorat.
Sorry, just kind of a random question, but
Sure.
us off-premise guys, does United have a big portfolio of the Grenache and Syrah, or sorry, the Grenache that's in our portfolio, but more maybe of the on-premise or fine wine section? Because I don't know, to be honest.
No, it's a good question. So for Garnacha or for Grenache?
Grenache.
Grenache. So we've got a pretty good portfolio. Let me go back here. So we've got Gerard Bertrand, who's got a lot of Grenache-based wines. In the
or maybe just the more specific ones other than Gerard.
Yeah.
I see. I mean, the Tempranillo, like the Spanish ones, those ones I feel like we don't have many on our portfolio. Maybe it's just on the off-premise side.
Yeah, you're right. The core of our portfolio is, if you had to say, is California, or right. But we have a lot of stuff from other places. There are some of our best selling or our better Grenaches are not in chain. So Andre Brunel is a big one. It's really good stuff. And that's all kind of Southern Rhone. And then let me think what else. We've got some, but not a ton of French in general. We've got a good French portfolio, but it's not as big as other people's French portfolio.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you mention Beeler? Because isn't that's okay.
Yeah, Beeler's another good one.
We only have one varietal of that as far as off-premise.
Right. So we don't have a lot of the big French producers, like if he's like a Jadot or something, which would have kind of has every level of everything. And so they, thrive at at Kroger and Publix and Whole Foods and stuff. Even though I know Whole Foods is on the retail division, but still. Now, as far as, let me go back here to your point. We only have really 2 Rioja houses. One's from Folio, it's Palacios Ramondo, and they're all specialized in Garnacha. That one's really good. And the other one is kind of new to our portfolio from Trinquero. It's called Finca Allende, and it's more Tempranillo based. And they're really good.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, they're awesome. But they're really small production. They don't make enough to be outside of really many restaurants and, and some independent retail. And the Priorat, this is a really cool area. We've got a place, one from Folio called Vaillac that doesn't make enough production to be really outside of most restaurants, but it's really good. Priorat is a really warm place. It's kind of surrounded by mountains, so it's a big oven here. And Garnacha is usually the star of those grapes, and Syrah and Carignan. And Garnacha's kind of grown all over Spain, but those are the 3 most famous places. Any questions here? We used to have the Torres family, and those wines are great. They're kind of like almost like a Jackson family in Spain. So they had a big production, but really good. And then Grenache, we also grow a lot of Grenache in Australia, like McLaren Vale, where Derenburg is, or Barossa Valley. And they're really famous for old vine Grenache because a lot of these were planted 100+ years ago. And they're still producing little bitty clumps of really concentrated grapes.
Hey, Connor.
Yes, sir.
Bobby Rivetto just got kicked out. He's trying to get back in. He's texting us.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
I didn't see that. Perfect. All right. Are you with us, Bobby? I think he's connecting. Okay, so Grenache, fairly important in Australia as well. Questions there? We had Yungara Remember that one, anybody? Grenache?
Yeah, Yongar Park.
Yep.
That was a KJ item, I think, wasn't it?
Yep.
Had synthetic corks.
Right.
Do we not have any more?
No, we do. I haven't checked in a while, but yeah, I know we had because they had some. There's one called High Sands Grenache. They had a lot of really kind of expensive ones, $100 Australian Grenache that we not recently, the last year or two, discontinued. But I think we should still have the regular Yongara. I hope. It's really good stuff. Okay. Do we in chain, do we sell much Derenberg?
Not like we used to.
Right. Derenberg stuff is pretty cool. All right, let's get into Tempranillo. It follows Grenache because, like I said, they're PB and J. We got a medium acid zone, medium tannin, red fruits, and black fruits. So Tempranillo is kind of like, there were the three bears, Tempranillo is just right. It's got red fruits, black fruits. It's got more acid and tannin depending on the warmer area you grow it, or less. It's really versatile, and they grow it pretty much all over Spain and Portugal, and it blends really well with Grenache. Blended or single varietal. This irritates me. This thing, simple or complex, like the full body. Yeah, they're not saying anything. Every grape, it's the same thing. But I digress. Okay. You get a lot of tertiary notes a lot of times. Well, I'll talk about this in a second. We're talking about Rioja again. We're talking about this little area, Ribera del Duero. And we're talking about Catalunya, which is right around Barcelona. But the most famous place would be Rioja again, where I'll be tubing down the Ebro. Okay, so, oops, what's going on with this? So they have basically, this thing is going on its own. It's going to mind of its own. We basically have two PDOs, right? We've got DO and DOCA. There are only two DOCAs. It's Rioja, and does anyone know the other one? Want to guess?
Is it the
Rioja Grand Reserva?
Oh no, I love it. It should be, I think, but the other one's Priorat we were talking about.
Oh,
Catalonia?
What was that? I missed it, but it is Rioja and Priorat, and all the other ones are DOs. And then we got Vino della Tierra. All right, let's talk about some labeling terms. We got Joven, and that just means, what does anyone know? Does anyone speak Spanish?
Young.
What does Joven mean in Espanol?
Young.
Young, right? So that's what that means. It doesn't have to be, it's usually not oaked. It's usually kind of like Beaujolais Nouveau, right? It's like just ready to go. Usually released, within a year, and fresh, fruity, done, right? But one big thing about Rioja, especially, is they like to age their wines a lot before they release them. They like the tertiary notes, right? The stuff that happened in the bottle. So you got Crianza next, which there's a minimum oak aging before releasing them and bottle. And then you got Reserva, and then you got Gran Reserva. So if you can see, I like their little illustrations here, because you got oak right here, you're oaking your Crianza. Your Reserva is aged a little bit longer in both barrel and bottle. So you get some of these dried fruits. In the Gran Reserva, which I'm pretty sure is 5 years before they even release it, you get some of these tertiary notes like mushrooms, right? Simple enough, easy enough.
So is that 5 years in a bottle or 5 years like in a barrel?
No, it's like 3 in a barrel and 2 in a bottle, something like that. It's a combo.
So it's just 5 years before they release it.
Yeah, so they're right now, current vintage would be, someone help me do the math, 2017, right? For the Gran Reservas. that would be maybe shipping this year. So probably, so in the market, you'll see 2014 Ground Reserve, and it hasn't been around, it's still fairly fresh comparatively. So it's only been sit there for a year or whatever. All right, questions on, Tempranillo? We are just zipping through. Carmenere. Where's Carmenere from? Does anyone know?
Argentina.
Originally from Bordeaux.
Yeah, Bordeaux.
Bordeaux, yeah.
Yes, it's originally a Bordeaux, and they still grow it in Bordeaux, but it doesn't really grow as well there. What we found out is Chile makes really good Carmenere, and they actually screwed it up. They thought they were growing Merlot for a long time, and everyone thought Chilean Merlot, which is different, right? They're like, wow, this is kind of vegetal and it's strange, but that just must be the terroir of Chile. And then finally, some botanist, is botanist? No, that's not the word. Some science type guy got there and took some tests and said, whoa, this is Carmenere. This is not Merlot. So that was a little egg on their face. But it's kind of similar to a Merlot if you look at it, right? Except it has a little more higher acidity and tannin. You get this herbaceousness and eucalyptus and blackberry fruit. It's pretty good. I'm not saying it's great. It's pretty good. It's growing the same place Cabernet does in Chile, in the Central Valley. Yeah, loves the Central Valley. Let's talk about Malbec. Loves warm climates. It's another one that originally was from where?
Argentina.
Bordeaux.
No, that's where so really Bordeaux and around Bordeaux. But it's not as good. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not, it wasn't as popular in southern France. But then you took it to a warmer climate, like what Kevin said, Argentina, and it thrived, right? It's a high tannin grape. They make a lot of black fruits, blackberry, black plum, blueberry, blue fruits, and blackberries. And we're talking, when you're pretty much 95% of the time when you're talking Malbec, you're talking Mendoza, Argentina. We've got a pretty good representation of Malbec, I'd say. Dylan, what do you think? What on the chain side? What do we have? Is Krios in stores?
Yeah, Malbec. I mean, we have actually more than like Grenache or Tempranillo, but because we have Krios, we have obviously some of like the generic store specific, like Kroger specific, or of the latter. But as far as pull, it's definitely much less popular.
Right.
So
now,
that's about it.
My first or second year here, 14 years ago, Malbec was the thing. It just exploded. It's like you couldn't get enough. Everyone started making one. But that's how it kind of goes, the trends up and down. Rosé wasn't a big thing when I first started. Back in my day, you couldn't sell a rosé. And now, everybody has a rosé. All right, let's finish the day on everyone's favorite grape, Pinotage, that was created in a lab in South Africa. We learned high acidity, medium tannin. This looks kind of like Pinot Noir, doesn't it? And it's because it was a, make sure I get this right, not a mutation. It was a crossing in a lab of Pinot Noir and Cinsault. Cinsault is another grape from the south of France. They wanted something that could grow better in a warm environment. So they crossed Pinot Noir with Cinsault and called it Pinotage. And the reason that is, remember we talked about, we were talking about Syrah, we saw Hermitage, that area. Well, Hermitage, a lot of Cinsault grows there at the time. So this is back in the 20s. And so they said, okay, we'll blend Pinot Noir with Hermitage, so Pinotage. That's why they call it that. It is definitely South Africa's grape. what else should I say? Cape blend is a term for Pinotage based blends. A Cape blend. You can blend with Cab and Merlot. I think that's all we need to know about it. That's it. Real quick before we go, how are you guys feeling as far as studying goes? Is the pacing okay so far?
They don't have any like practice questions, do they? And I know that we have the stuff that you just got. I just mean that in the sense of like, this information we're talking about it is like, yeah, okay, it makes sense for sure. But I just formatting, I wonder if I would just see questions and kind of be tripped up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I'm going to put together an email. We're going to call it #TheBigResource, and it'll have the login for for the Brainscape. It'll have whatever resources I have, and then let's also whatever you guys find, either reply to that or send it to me.
Okay.
And we'll compile it all in one place.
Okay, cool. I just want to like talking about it is so helpful. I just not worry, but I'm thinking about it in a question context.
Yeah, because you never know. So, what was that, Tony?
I think that would be helpful also, practice like some sort of practice of sort.
Yeah, because every, CSW asks questions a different way than WSET does versus, they all have their own style. So that's, I'll be looking for that. It's a great point. And give you guys as much as we can. Any other thoughts about it? All right, cool. We got one more after this, I guess, in 2 weeks, and then we'll have maybe a 1 or 2 special sessions to kind of go over things, and then we'll be close to test time. Should be great.
And the test is the first week of May, right?
Is it? Yeah, if that's what I put in the schedule. That's
I think it is. It's Cinco de Mayo. Woohoo.
Oh, okay. Wait. I think the next class is Cinco de Mayo. Is that right?
That's what I thought.
I think the 4th session is, or is that I got CSW going now too. So sorry, hold on.
I'm pretty sure we test the first week of May.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna have to do it remotely. And so if that's an issue for anybody, then we can, we've got the power.
The schedule right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone and everyone, but it's a session 4 is next week. Review session is the following week.
Oh, you're exactly right. I'm glad you said that. I would not have shown up next week, and that would have not. Yeah, exam week is that week of Cinco.
And that's not changing.
Well, so here's the deal. If it's an issue, let's talk about it, because it doesn't matter so much since we're doing it remotely, I think.
Okay.
We could possibly do the 2nd week of May if that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would give us more time to study.
Right. Okay, let me just make sure there's no conflicts. I'm not going to say yes to that yet, but if it makes more sense, I'm not trying to just be a stickler because I'm made up the week. So it should be able to be changed. And if someone wants to take it on the 28th, it could be we could do 2 heats or something like that too. So I think we can be flexible.
Do you want to keep the days the same as far as we have this week and next week and the following week? Is that going to stay true?
Would you guys rather, let's see here. Let me just make sure. I wonder if I did that because of any particular reason. 27th. So we could do the 27th as the next one. But then do the 4th. Would you guys be okay doing 8 to 10 a.m. on the 4th?
I mean, it could behoove us to keep the information sessions the same, but then throw in an extra review session.
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well.
I like that.
And then that review session would be, am I right? Yeah, it would be, I believe, on the 27th, is that right? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, on the 27th, the review. And that way, if you had to miss it, you could just watch it, the review session, if you're doing Cinco stuff. No, that's 27. Anyway, yeah, I think we should keep it next week. I'm sorry, that'd be a lot of reading. But we could do it, and we could, if we need to split it in half or something and do part of it during the review. But I think you guys can handle it. It's basically what, 10 pages, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just stick to it. And then we'll have extra time to review. If we don't want to do it the week of Cinco, we could do it the following week, to actually do the exam the following week.
All right.
Deal?
Connor, how was the I missed the first one. So how was the are we? It says we're doing it virtually. So are you like the proctor, or how does that work?
No, I'll get into all that next week.
Okay.
Still actually was holding out. I'm hoping that I could proctor in person. I don't know. I still don't think that's going to be able to happen. The remote process is actually kind of a pain in the ass, but everyone did it last time. You have to get your phone to record you on your computer. It's like there's the CSW and CSS way of doing it. It's way easier. Let me put it that way. So, but we'll be prepared and ready for it. I just wanted to see if it was possible. Right now, we still can't get together in groups larger than 6 at United, but that could change tomorrow.
Well, they just released, I think we have an in-person. Melissa, when is that?
Hold on. Yes, they did just release a in-person.
Yeah, April 29th.
29th.
What is it?
So it's the UDI Spirits launch. So all of on-premise will be
Oh, really?
5,400. So is there a possibility that we would take this in person?
That's what I was going to kind of wait to figure out.
Okay.
Because I think it's my preference to do it in person.
Sure.
Especially with this, because the remote thing was really tough last time. We might still have to do it that way, but that's good to know that there is something at 5,400.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Connor, I think Chain Wine is actually meeting in person next week, next Wednesday.
Okay.
Wait, so the Spirits launch on the 29th is no longer a Zoom call?
No, it's in person.
Okay.
You'll see on the little thing, Jeff, it's like how there's still a Zoom thing because other people are zooming in from other.
Oh, there it is. We'll be live at the 5,400 building.
Mhm.
Albany.
Wait, is Smyrna on and off premise?
Whoa.
Okay.
Rolling deep.
With an extra 15 reps from independent retail.
Boom.
Boom. Nailed it. Okay, cool. Well, that's good to know, because let me call Virginia and see if we can make that happen. But if not, either way, be ready for an update next week. I'll let y'all know sooner if I can figure it out before then.
Thank you.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Any other questions?
We appreciate you, Connor.
I appreciate
Thanks,
you back.
Connor.
Thanks, guys.
Right.
We'll see you
Thank
in a
you.
week. Yep.
Thanks, Connor.
Bye.
Yeah.
You got it.
Anyway.